Good morning. We're going to go over some things on Congress that we would have covered if I would be in class today. But I hope you guys have headphones and the two handouts that the sub gave you. If you look um, in front of you to see where my cursor is, this is the study guide that we are going to use for interest groups and for Congress. So taking a look, I put major themes here. These are all the terms you will need to know. You can see we just talked about gerrymandering, reapportionment. I'm going to go over today in the first screencast the leadership of Congress and also the Senate, so you can definitely make sure that you watch that. That's one of the things that you need to do. The second part is going to be over how a bill becomes a law, and it's a huge, huge chunk of material that you're going to work on today. So that will be the second part of the screencast. I do want to give you a quiz over Congress in the next week. So the next time I see you will be Tuesday. So Tuesday when you come to class, bring any questions. If you don't understand something that I'm going to go over, make sure that you cover that. So that is what this is. The interest groups, chapter 11, that will be our next thing. We'll probably be on that about a day and a half, and then we'll have our test after that. So just so you know the timeline, about 2.5, 3 more days on Congress and interest groups. The second handout you should have in front of you is something I typed out to help you find information in the text. So if you read it, corresponding pages of your textbook to the notes. So I put down major topics that we have discussed and where you can find it in your book for extra reading material. I thought that would help if you do not understand a concept or if you want further clarification. Okay? So please make sure that you put that in your notes. All right. Well, I'm going to disappear for a while and I'll come back in a little bit, but these are the two things that I want you to see. Now, I did not give you a PowerPoint this time, so you're going to have to write down this information. It's not very much, but I want to make sure that we go over it so you understand. So we've gone over the House, we've gone over reapportionment, and today I want to focus on the Senate and leadership in both houses in this first screencast. So goodbye. See you later. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the special features that the House has alone. It's very distinct that the House has some things and the Senate has some things that are distinct to their own operating functions. Number one, all revenue bills are initiated in the House of Representatives only. That means all tax bills out of the Ways and Means Committee. And we've talked about that before, just want to make sure you know that basic one. Another special function of the House. Remember, the House only can bring a charge of impeachment, and impeachment is officially charging an official with wrongdoing. It can be president, vice president, or another civil officer. Number 3, they choose the president when the Electoral College is deadlocked. And number 4, it's a little bit more larger than the House. It's 435 compared to 100. So the structure is much more formal than the Senate because they have so many people they have to go by stricter rules. So if you need to know any specific function about the House, those are the main details. All right, so let's finish up the House of Representatives and what we have been learning. This is leadership in the House. Big leaders, of course, the Speaker of the House is the one who presides over the House of Representatives at all times. Now, it doesn't mean he's always on the days, which is the front area that you see. We've had a lot of really powerful speakers in the past. Most recently, probably Newt Gingrich. We've had Joseph Cannon. We've had Reed, which the House office buildings are named for. So I just want you to know, if you have a really strong speaker, it totally changes the dynamic between Congress and the presidency. What the Speaker does is he helps with the party. He helps guide the majority party. He gives committee assignments to all people in Congress and the majority party, and he helps get bills through Congress. He will rule on any, or she, rule on any parliamentary procedure. They oversee House business, and a constitutional fact, – they are second in line for presidential succession. Others that help him, the majority leader is also of the majority party. They are elected by their own members in the House, and it's really the Speaker's top assistant. And their main job is to track legislation. They go out and they track it to make sure that it's getting through committee and will get to the floor for debate. So that's really the role of the majority leader. To help assist him, there's a person known as the majority whip, and this is an old English term. It means whipping in. It's a fox hunting term, so that's where the nickname came from. But what they really do is they keep members in line. So the whip will have the pulse of the party, will have the pulse of the minority party as well, and they inform the majority leader and the speaker when key votes are coming up, how people are voting. They'll count the vote and say, yes, we need to make progress toward this, or no, we need a little more time. They help build party unity. They give briefings to the members of their own party on where bills are and how the party wants them to vote. So they are very, very instrumental and very persuasive. So the big three leadership portions are definitely going to be Speaker of the House, that is in the Constitution. Majority Leader, Majority Whip are by political party. And then you have the Minority Leader and Minority Whip that function exactly the same way as the Majority Leader, only they do it for the minority side. So currently, and I've mentioned this a million times, I feel like, in the 114th Congress, the House is led by Republicans, and the Senate also has a Republican majority. So the Democrats are in the minority, and all these party positions are Republicans. So I hope that makes sense to you. That's how leadership is structured. Now, one other thing that I'm going to write are committee chairmen, which I'll address in a little bit, but committee chairs are very powerful and they help keep things going in a smaller setting as well. So the next phrase that I want to show you, these are the people in the House. I just want you to know the main people. The Speaker, of course, is Paul Ryan. We've talked about him from Wisconsin. Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. And this is the whip down here, Scalise. Over on the minority party side, Nancy Pelosi, who was formerly Speaker of the House, but when the Democrats lost their majority, she became the minority leader, and then Steny Hoyer helps her. So these people are on the news quite a bit. They represent their party and they help push legislation through the House of Representatives. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the Senate, and then I'll wrap this portion up. In the Senate, I know you guys know this, there are 2 senators per state. We currently have 100. Originally, senators were chosen by their state legislatures. That's a Constitution test question. So in the original Constitution, it said each state senator should be chosen by their legislatures. Today, though, we have the people. You and I now elect our senators because of the 17th Amendment. So make sure you put that 17th Amendment down. It changed the selection of senators, so voters now choose by popular vote. So we have 2 per state. We have 100 senators originally chosen by the state legislatures, and the 17th Amendment changed it, increased the voter base so we can vote for them directly. Now, there are several constitutional positions in the Senate, but what's really strange is the most powerful position in the Senate is not in the Constitution, and I want to address that. The constitutional power for President of the Senate lies with the Vice President. And what he does, the Constitution makes the Vice President the President. It is a largely ceremonial job. So you will see Vice President Biden there when it's very close. And the main thing that they do on Capitol Hill when they are present is they vote to break a tie. We have a very close majority-minority ratio between Democrats and Republicans. And so he often goes to Capitol Hill to break the tie during a key vote. They preside during official speeches. I'm sure you saw the State of the Union address with Vice President Biden sitting behind, acting as President of the Senate. Now, the President pro tempore, this is in the Constitution, that job is. So let me put these up, and then I'll show you a couple little things. On the President Pro Temp, this is normally the person who presides over the Senate in the absence of the Vice President. So oftentimes you'll see this person. It is largely held, or almost always, by the majority party, and it goes to the person who's been in the Senate the longest. So currently you would have the longest serving Republican in the Senate be the President Pro Tem. That's by tradition. Now, this is a largely ceremonial position too. What I want to go to is this one. And I want you to circle this big or write it down with stars, because this is the most powerful person in the Senate. The majority leader is the one who actually conducts most of the business in the Senate. They're elected by their party leader. They're the true leader. They assign committee members. They really act as the Speaker of the House does in the House, but the majority floor leader sets the agenda. They're very, very powerful. And so Mitch McConnell is the current one. He's a Republican, so you'll see him leading bills through the Senate. He is assisted by a majority floor whip who does the same thing in the House, informs members on key votes. They help count votes. They guide the bill through the House, through the Senate side. So please know that. And again, the Senate has a minority floor leader and a minority whip. Very similar functions. They help the process of bills getting pushed through and counting votes. So the last thing here, this is the Senate leadership of the 114th. This is actually the majority party. And I put a couple more on so you can see that, specifically because our Missouri Senator Roy Blunt is in a very high leadership position in the Senate. The majority leader, the most powerful person in the Senate right now, is Mitch McConnell. And you'll see him, especially with the Senate confirmation of the Supreme Court Justice coming up, you will see Mitch McConnell on the news quite a bit. This is the majority whip, so I wanted you to see that. The next one is the Democratic side, the minority leader. Harry Reid, we've talked about him before. He is probably the most influential Democrat. And then Richard Durbin is the minority whip. You might see him as well. So the last portion of the Senate, I just want to go over special things that the Senate can do. And these are, the Senate alone has this power. Just like the House alone had it, this is the Senate alone. So the Senate can ratify treaties. They're the only body, once the president puts it toward them, they have to ratify treaties. They also confirm judicial appointments, confirm executive appointments, and they have the sole power to impeach officials, and we talked about 2/3. So this ends our first section on the House and Senate leadership. If you have any questions, email me, let me know, and you can go on to the second PowerPoint in just a second.